figured that out in less than 48 hours. What took the rest of you months, and you still didn't even come close. It's so obvious what they've done with the Rebirth. You idiots. Let me come in and tell you exactly, objectively, factually what Square Enix have absolutely decided is happening with Rebirth. The riddle is solved, the conundrum is over. I'm sorry, I'm being facetious. That was a pretty intense opening, but I had to clickbait you in with this video. Just to first out the gate, just comment on that. We just went through Final Fantasy 16. I ain't gonna say anything for spoilers. I know it's been out like a while now, and I'm never really sure when the spoiler period is over. So I'm just gonna err on the side of caution. We all know how 16, we've played it, ended, and we had this exact same tonality amongst the fan base, where Square Enix quite clearly write in multiple possible options and answers, ones that are supposed to get us thinking and weighing up the evidence that they have carefully crafted in, so that every single one of the potential options has just enough evidence, has just enough either to, you know, discredit it or prove it. It's quite clear that no, that's an intentional thing by Square Enix, and yet we still have people heavy-footedly ramming their POV down people's throats, saying no, it's absolutely this. Now, you can have your bias, you can have your, well, I'm looking at all of this and I'm leaning more towards this, but you know I'm trying to get here. The shitheads who try to shut down any of the other takes like they're the most nonsensical thing in the world, when truth is, guys, so yeah, FF7 Rebirth spoilers, you shouldn't be on this video otherwise. I'm so excited for this one, guys. We're going to go straight in to weighing up the evidence for what I think we can like narrow down to 3 outcomes. That Aerith is dead, Aerith is alive, they're dead in the live stream, she's alive, or it's psychosis and a Genova inducement. It's schizophrenia. Those are 3 options, right? Roughly. And I know that's just clear as day to me, you know. So many people trying to pretend like that's not the case. It's like, no, she's alive. It's obvious. No, the Ultimania specifically lists those 3 options. Is she dead? Is she in the live stream? Or is it all in Cloud's head? The Ultimania says it. So get off your high horses. Let's dive in the rabbit hole. Let's theory craft. Let's strap on our tins. And let's weigh up the evidence for each of these options. I would just say I am leaning more towards one. But I also am in the camp of, I think that all 3 of them are somewhat in play, you know? So Aerith is of course always going to be alive in some context, even if that alive is just in the live stream context, or if it's alive in the context of what's happening with these world, in the sense that the live stream, which is what is the building blocks of reality, that's what creates life, right? If that's being fundamentally changed and manipulated, altered, branching, like alternate, or I think parallel. I think they prefer the word parallel rather than multiple timelines or multiverse. I think Square Enix themselves have said it's more like parallel. But even then, not fully. And I think I know why they're saying that, but I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. That, yeah, to whatever degree alive or real is real, Aerith is that. Even if she's dead, I think we can all agree she hasn't yet been obliterated on a soul level. I do think this could potentially happen. A lot of you Aerith fans aren't going to like this, but I do think Aerith could voluntarily obliterate herself on even a soul level. That's for another theory on another day. I know that sounds terrible, but it would actually be poetically beautiful for many reasons. But don't go crazy in the comment section, hit the dislike button just on that. I know some of you already are. I bloody know it. My gosh, but I love that when it comes to this product, Final Fantasy VII, we all have so much love, we have so much enthusiasm, so much passion. It's something so dear to us, and we'll have such strong opinions. I love that. I simultaneously hate it. In the context of dead, you know, she was dead in Advent Children, but she could show up in white spaces here and there, lend some strength, give Cloud a hand, have a chat with him about forgiveness, show up in a little water droplet that Tifa looks at and goes, I knew you were there. And then there's the psychosis, the Genova manipulation. Well, I mean, even those could be 2 categories. I'm going to lump them into one, but Cloud's mind is broken. This is copium, this is schizophrenia, or this is Generith, Erinova. That Genova is the one creating this doppelganger, this ghost that Cloud's interacting with at the end, which would be wild. I'll just say that is such a big dick play. Be absolutely amazing and just world shattering on the story, because it would be such a massive play and so huge. That's what leads me even further into thinking that is what has happened. Ah damn, I just showed off my bias. But before, well, I'm not going to go into my bias. Let's just weigh up the evidence. All right, so you guys have probably seen this, but let's just paint a little roadmap. So we obviously had the plot scenario presented to us that when fate is broken, something that doesn't happen every Tuesday, you know, is a pretty rare thing. And arguably ever since the Harbinger of Fate and Sephiroth took over, you know, fate was something that pretty much always played out. And it wasn't this big terrible inhibitor, you know, one that required plot ghosts to come in and prevent characters from, you know, acting on their free will. You know, like the crew when they wanted to get up the pillar to save Jesse, Biggs and Wedge, you know, they're held back by plot ghosts. Total violation of a person's independent or autonomous free will. What wasn't such a thing before, but obviously the live stream and what Sephiroth and Genova are doing are putting, you know, fate under pretty extenuating or like pretty intense circumstances. So Sephiroth said that it's only when these fate things, you know, get broken or changed that these worlds branch. And obviously we're now seeing that that's what Zack, pretty much he is a variant. That's a crazy amount of power, and I think it's really cool that it's Zack who is outside of the confines, the restraints of fate. Was it AERITH who played him in with this capacity to break fate this way? And that he's just branching up worlds. I know we got like 7 stamped worlds now. I think the Ultimate Menu confirmed it was 6, but I think you kind of even have to count the little plushie. Is it the plushie, or are you already counting that into the 6? You know, when Johnny runs past Zack, the plushie, which was it was so derpy, but I was gonna say really funny, but it was actually, I don't know, I found that really sinister. But I think some people are saying it's like technically 7. I've seen some people saying it's like more like 260 something because of the rainbows, the number of times the rainbows pop up or some stuff, but I don't really think that's what it means. I like what Bree said to me, that's just like showing to us when fate is like whiplashing back. You try to change it, but it gets kept on the rails by force. So it's the Biggs dying, Wedge dying, like fate whiplashing to keep the same status quo on track. Of those, let's say 7, what, like 4 of them are created just by Zack's choices? And now I'll quickly throw it out there, you know, that Zack can defy fate. Also is Sephiroth outside of the confines of fate. Arguably, he now controls fate. I mean, with the destruction of the Harbinger of Fate and the absorbing of the Whispers. I just wonder, with Zack, we've seen the divergences that he creates. Is Sephiroth also creating divergences? And based on how those divergences play, he gets to see the scenarios that happen. And then on the main lines, gets to, with like more foresight, choose the actions that he takes. Because that's what's obviously working remarkably well, is that Sephiroth is not just willy-nilly. No, we did see in first part of the remake where he would do like probes, like testers. I would say that stabbing Barrett was one of those things. I'll stab Barrett and see what happens, see what the result is. Rebirth Sephiroth seems more purposeful in the things that he does, and maybe that's because he can branch and get, you know, assessments before those new avenues close. Like you said, some of them close really quickly. All of that is to say that, of course, Cloud went through what looks like a Destiny's portal. Now, me and Bree, we argued quite a lot about this. I don't know if you guys saw that as a Destiny's portal just before, you know, we were at the Forgotten Capital, you've got the Wall of Ghosts, and then, you know, a few of them bash in, and then the same kind of white door with the same spell effect comes over. Now, Bree was saying that that was just fate keeping the other characters out because it's only supposed to be Cloud who goes through at that point. I said, no, I think it is another Destiny's door. For the same reason, it has the same spell animation, and also it had, you know, Barrett saying, oh, we've got to say the magic words. Daddy's coming home, you know, which is what he said at the end of the Crossroads. So meaning we were at another Destiny's Crossroad at that point. And the significance of that was, of course, when we passed through it. We went onto the other side of the highway and you saw Barrett look around and say, yo, everything looks exactly the same. meaning it's indistinguishable from normal reality. But what we know from Remake is it's anything but normal reality. It's like a sandbox of reality, where things are decided in like an instant space, and that has real world implications. So where we thought the Harbinger was not the real world, cloud falling through the freaking sky, the characters having super power-ups, and Los Kadaj Yozu remnants showing up. It's like a sub-reality at that point, in between reality and non-reality, and you could just say another part of the life stream. Maybe even you could say a core integral part of it, being as it has such a strong implication on what happens to the live stream. Anyway, Cloud goes through, and one interpretation you get there is, yeah, he went into a sandbox where Aerith's death is a destiny-changing moment, and he has the fork in the road where he both saves her and not saves her. That's the most obvious. And that's why I'm going to give that a point to she's alive. Saved her on the rift in the skyline, which is the one that Zack's on. And we know it's a dying world and that it has no more life stream in it, which, you just got to question, how real is that world if that's the case? If the life stream is dry on it and flowers aren't blooming, it's coming close to an apocalyptic ending, and seemingly all the souls on it know that it's not real. Like, we all got that sinister feeling, right? It was interesting that they never played, the scene where Zack bursts into the church and there's all the people crying, wobbling out and whatnot. It was illogical to think that they were just tornado survivors. The sectors have just got tornadoed and they're there. But still, you go back and watch it and it's not regular even by the standards of people who've gone to refuge there from a big natural calamity, disaster. The souls on it behaved weird. It's even clear with Zack and Biggs both saying, my concept of time is fucked. What's that about? So if we just take, because a lot of people, I'd say the majority of people are big fans of Aerith. I love Aerith. Between Aerith and Tifa, I slightly lean out to Aerith. And I don't think that Aerith and Cloud is that, I don't think the main part of the love for each other, I've said this before, is romantic love. I think a part of it is romantic love, but I think it is a spiritual love, a karmic one, where they're spiritually entangled and therefore it's actually far more powerful than potentially even romantic love. So anyway, I have all the reason to be like an Aerith fan and want to convince myself she's alive. But I'd say that's what most people are falling into. Aerith fans vehemently arguing that she's alive. Well, I would just simply say, well, what is living in this game? If that world, that rift in the sky world, is what you call alive, there's a mismatch, there's a disconnect between, clearly to me, what the situation of that world is presented as. I was calling it a purgatory, Marco, Clone 49, Zen Buddhism that Najima said he'd been looking into, 49, the stage or the number of days that you spend between life and rebirth. And it just seemed like it was a different grading of the live stream. Zack and Aerith showed up in Advent Children. Would you say that they were alive in Advent Children? Now, I get this is different because it's far more, and this is what I think tricks people, because it's corporeal, because it's tangible. We're there. We see the environment. We see Midgar. We see people. We see NPCs. This is real. That's not the metaphysical high fantasy reality of FF7, that there's dream weaving. Back in even before Crisis, we had Lost Number create worlds of illusion, indistinguishable from reality. And what we even know with modern science today is what seems real, what seems corporeal is an illusion. The world of material form is an illusion. It's actually just energy vibrating at super high frequencies, and we don't have the capacity to perceive it that way. But that's no different to really how FF7, except FF7 takes it even further, because the live stream creates these worlds. It's both real and not real. What I'm saying is, real is less real than people think it is, and less real is more real than people think it is. So the gap isn't as large. Genuinely, honestly, it just is not. And so people obsessing over whether she's dead or alive, it's just, no, it's somewhere in between. These things may seem like semantics, but I do think they are kind of important. But anyway, Cloud goes through, he saves her, and then as the death is happening, head blip out. It's exactly what we've seen when he's overwriting either himself through copium or Genova's tweaking it, just like he tweaked, you know, Tifa's titty scars multiple times to create a manipulation. We saw that. So that's gonna definitely, the head tweak outs put a massive tick in psychosis, mental breakdown, or Genova manipulated, and then just leaping and bouncing over to, you know, some of the events around it. So let's go to Aerith and Cloud's dream date, which perfectly substantiated the whole dream weaving, worlds of illusion. Not only can Genova do it, not only can, I believe, Cloud can do it, because previous clones have done it as well. In this, it's presented to us that Aerith is now doing it. She said, this is my dream. You can think of it as my dream, after saying, this is a homecoming. Now, that's got to put a tick, for me at least, in Genova manipulated. Saying she's a homecoming, no matter which way you chalk it up, is pretty sus. Saying the very line, you know, that a previous Aerith had just disagreed with, she said, oh, homecoming, it's not as simple as that. Her mimicking the very thing that a bugged out Cloud has been mimicking from Sephiroth, that's suspicious. Now, I will just say, I have a mind-blowing theory. This is just like a prelude to the true tinfoil hat juice that I'm gonna be laying up. That her saying homecoming is actually for a different reason, but that's all I could do. Just a teaser that I've got another reason for that, and this is, I think, going to be the most mind-blowing thing that no one else has found, or very few people have found. Man, these dogs are killing my soul. They're so like big Great Danes I'm looking after in Australia. They're like 80 kilograms, so their voices are just so booming. So just on that line alone, I'm going to put it in psychosis. But yeah, the reason why I say dead is, yeah, my overall impression was, just like Maiden who travels through the live stream, Aerith wanted one final date with Cloud. Something that Omni Aerith wanted. You know, that's sincere. To go back to being the micro avatar Aerith. You know, the one that isn't mother of the live stream. That isn't submerged in the great blue sky, you know, assimilating all of these souls, rallying souls off the planet, this big grandiose duty that she has. You know, to go back to just when I was simply Aerith and I was just there with Cloud on a date. And it felt to me like this was a moment where she was transforming or shifting from micro avatar Aerith to Omni Aerith. And just before this moment, let me have this moment with Cloud one more time. And you know, a lot of people are saying, yes, she's definitely dead, and that's the sign of it, and that is super wholesome, and that is sufficient for Aerith's goodbye. We don't need more of her. You know, I feel like a lot of people are kind of berating people for not crying per se. Like, I am one of them, and I know many people. Just let me know in the comments section below, did you cry at Aerith's death this time? I feel like there's such small room for anyone to have cried. But it did surprise me to go and look at other YouTubers' reactions to see that I just typed in Aerith's death. I saw like 20 YouTubers, all with their snotty, fucking puffy, red-eyed faces saying, I'm broke, it broke me, broke again, broke, I'm broke. I'm broke too, but just financially, not from that Aerith scene. I don't know how you could get there, because it was just obviously just caterwauling, catapulting, just false hope and bait and massive happenings. There was no lowering of the body. There was a whole fight with Aerith and Cloud fighting together against Sephiroth, and him saying, oh, I underestimated you, which that, I'm going to put that in also a point of she's dead. I underestimated you. I feel like that's something Sephiroth would say, never walking through that white door would be, that's Omni Aerith showing up. Oh God, I want to say more, but I don't want to give away my mad theory that actually explains what that is. I'm having to bite my tongue. We'll just say that is Omni Aerith for the purposes of this, especially because they also finished it with the Cloud and Aerith back to back, linking each other hands, just like Advent Children. Just like in Advent Children, when she was Omni Goddess Aerith. So that's also a point for she's dead. But, big, juicy, voluptuous but, let's now cover what happened right at the end. Obviously, Cloud seeing a ghosty Aerith, and now I'll just point out, well, first of all, obviously the Red sensing her, right? So we're all saying about, well, if it's psychosis and Cloud's head or Genova, how is it that Red sensed her? Biggest support that I would say that goes for both alive and dead, right? Because even if she is in the other world alive, Red could sense her. By the very notion that was it not the case that Red animated in the helicopter, you know, while he's supposed to be on the other line, well, while he was on the other line, his body came back up, nommed the helicopter guy, crashed it, and that's how Zack got Aerith's body back. So we've seen Red have that connection to the other side, so he could be connecting her to her alive in that other world. Similarly, could also be connecting to her being dead, because he's a beast, he's sensitive to the planet, he has an animal's intuition. So even if she was in the live stream, he would also. So I feel like that doesn't substantiate one way or another she's alive or dead. But what a lot of people have been saying is that is the support as to why it's not psychosis. Well, that's what you all think. That's what I thought. That immediately made me dismiss, or at least shift to a position of, oh, this is Cloud and his mind is fractured and he does have manipulating Genova cells. But what he's doing is he's sensing Aerith's presence there because her presence is there, but he's animating. He's animating with his Genova cells what she is doing. What she's saying. She's not actually saying these words. This is just Cloud projecting onto a feeling of Aerith. And, you know, that feeling is something that, yeah, like I said, Tifa sensed in a drop in Advent Children. It's something that Marlene, numerous times, sister, Marlene has felt Aerith's presence numerous times. If you've got the intuition keen enough to sense into it. But yeah, Red sensing it means it can't just be in Cloud's head or Genova manipulated, except that it can. Except that it can, guys, because what we're all forgetting, Red got tricked by a Sephiroth Genova doppelganger in OG. His beast instinct didn't detect that was a fake Tifa. Why, if his intuition is so keen, was he able to be tricked? Because Red's a Sephiroth clone. Red is the least reliable person of everyone here to take too much into account that he sensed Aerith. He has S cells coursing through his body. I'm just going to drop it now. Apparently there's a master post out there, me and Bree just went over it and it blows my mind, but it makes sense. That final scene, Aerith says nothing original. Nothing. I'll send up smoke. She said that before. What was it? Cloud says, are you okay getting back? Well, what if I can't? That's what she said in Remake when they were at the church. No, just before Cloud agrees to be the bodyguard. Well, what if I can't? Now that's pretty goddamn suspicious, don't you think? That's something that either screams Cloud projecting from his head things he remembers Aerith saying before to construct her saying it now, or something that Genova has read. No, either when Cloud is interacting with her and Genova, she's always soul reading. She's always imprinting. She does it off Tifa. That's how Cloud has his constructed persona. Reads it off Tifa. That happened at the train station, and what makes me wonder is, could that not even potentially be an ongoing process? That the persona of Cloud Strife, if it was initially constructed by Tifa's memories of him, that's the counterpart to, Zack is the one that was the imprint that makes him think he was a soldier, big powerful soldier with a big buster sword, and wasn't actually a weak little bitch. But Tifa's the one that gives him the, I'm Cloud Strife from Nibelheim, and this is who I was, and this was my childhood. And I think that's why Cloud shows up in Tifa's trial in the Temple of the Ancients, because I think that's an even clearer way of saying that. That's the burden that she carries. She gives the construct of Child Cloud to Cloud. Now, if that's constantly reading, Cloud's persona is imprinting in real time, all the time, off of Tifa. What happens if Tifa gets more and more convinced or scared of Cloud that he's becoming like Sephiroth? Did Tifa not bite her tongue multiple times, or even go to say to Aerith he's becoming more like was going to say Sephiroth, and if she's starting to see him that way, Does that start making him more that way? Something very interesting to consider. God damn, I love this. The other thing that makes me really think Red could have been detecting Generith and feeling it was Aerith, because if Jenova has indeed been constantly reading Aerith, absorbing her souls, absorbing her memories, where did Aerith's memories from the white materia go? When all of these plot ghosts have been coming around, I'm feeling stuff taken from me, losing parts of myself. Where did those parts go? What we know is that, just like Sephiroth lost big parts of himself in the live stream, they don't just vanish, they're still down there. Memory never disappears in FF7. That's what creates the live stream. And then once you start going down that line, because you could say Omni Aerith was suppressing Remake Aerith, because she was in control of the Whispers at that point, right? Well, we know that, like Sephiroth didn't have control of the Whispers at that point. So when they're swirling around and taking stuff, we could say that was Omni Aerith suppressing Micro Avatar Aerith for a good purpose. That's going to be my next theory. At that point, the material was still white. It wasn't gone. It was only in Rebirth that it became transparent. Now I go to the Jenova we just fought. Life Clinger, popping up with what looked, I mean, I have to go back and look, but didn't it look like a white materia or like a big white orb in its chest? Oh, that's crazy. And I don't know if there was like some construct of like white whispers going into that, because how all the white whispers and the black whispers were playing out that part was just crazy and all over the place. I need to go back and watch it, but basically, because this is vague to me right now, again, I'm only a few days out, but it gives me a feeling that Jenova took that, and Jenova has parts of the building blocks that she would need to create a false Aerith. So I'm just gonna, that's how I feel, guys. That potentially this is Generith. But I will just give some points as well to she's alive. Maybe we could say that, yeah, she's alive, because we also have to admit that there is kind of a weird interplay of third-person or third-party perspectives, and that Square Enix don't tend to ignore third-party perspective rules, and that is the person being there. If the person's having a mental breakdown, they need to be the one who saw it. A clearer way to say it, when Cloud reconstructs the Nibelheim scene, obviously he constructs some of it from Zack's POV, because obviously we see things, or Cloud tells parts of the story that he was not there to see. He was not there to see Sephiroth slashing the tanks, I'm a monster. He was not there when, by Crisis Core standard, Genesis showed up, because he was outside the door standing guard with Tifa with his helmet on, because the little goofball was too embarrassed to show his face. It's getting dark out here. It gives a kind of sinister vibe. And we know, obviously, the imprint from Zack, Jenova imprint, was the mechanism that gave Cloud that perspective. How does that basically work with them zooming off in the tiny Bronco and Aerith still being there? Our final shot going to Aerith after they've zoomed off. If that's just in Cloud's head, like psychosis, why are we being shown that? So that does kind of give a feeling that, no, that is authentically Aerith. She is alive. It's just, this is Rift in the Sky. Let's not overthink it. She's alive. The same way that Zack is, to whatever degree he is. As she just said, she's going to go to the Forgotten Capital. She's going to pray to try to stop Meteor. And her line, yeah, it's like a second home. It's just her simply saying, yeah, it's what the Cetra built. It's like a second home to me. The other half of me is Cetra. So part of this feels like home, and so damn, there was a lot there. As he's getting darker and darker, I've got to finish this up quick. A lot there to substantiate all the different arguments. And I think we need to respect that that's how it's been set up. And that Square Enix are just, they're just teasing us. They're just dangling the carrot, you know? What was one of the things she said? I'll defeat Sephiroth. You promise? End lines, no promises will be made. They're fucking with us. This is Nomura, Kitase, Hamaguchi, Najima, just fuckery, mischief. And even that line, because we have so many contradictions. 1 minute, oh, Homecoming isn't about that, her objecting to the term of Homecoming, then saying it. Saying, oh, don't worry about Sephiroth, I'll deal with him, you just work on yourself. Then saying, I'll deal with Sephiroth, you promise. Contradictions. Now I have the best answer. categorically the most exciting one for those contradictions. Like I said, that'll be the next video. But I want to leave this off as to why psychosis could be the main one. So I'm going to be covering Carl Jung because he had a take on schizophrenia that I think perfectly explains it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go into it now. Because I typed in, I was looking at Yogacara, right? Najima told us Yogacara, Zen Buddhism, and Carl Jung are the three things that we need to look at if we want to understand this. Yogacara, I've told you guys, is about having the eyes to see, the ears to being deceived by the senses, the construct of reality, and limiting the discovery of your true self by not opening up the senses and being prone to manipulation. Bugenhagen pointed out you need the eyes, you need the ears. Sephiroth pointed out with eyes this clouded, you'll never see the truth. This is the Yogacara aspect. That Cloud is currently, he's supposed to be on his way towards spiritual progression, and part of that progression is the death of Aerith. It's a massive catalyst. Now, we see Cloud go downhill for a while and he's going to go into his puppet phase, absolutely. But what pulls him out of the puppet phase is two things. I had to go in, I was getting eaten by mosquitoes and the light had just got too dark. I don't even know where I just left off. Did I say about Yogacara, the construct of reality? It's like the old like Morpheus kind of matrix. Well, what is reality? If it's just what we hear, smell, touch and all that stuff, then it's just electrical signals going to the brain. Yogacara is that, but it's like a very spiritual process of transcending it, hence where the yoga comes from. And it's kind of a merge of, like basic Hindu yogic principles along with Zen Buddhism structure. So Najim has been influenced by that, and I don't see it as any coincidence that now we have Cloud under these heavy layers of illusion, which I'll just point out that I'm leaning towards psychosis mostly because of, let's be real, if she was alive, or even if this was AERITH, does that justify the sinister undertone of Tifa crying and Cloud showing her no comfort, no empathy, zero, while then turning to Aerith and then somber, very melancholy music playing, this unnatural smile that Cloud has. Even look at the end. It was really sinister to me that while they're all grieving, or Barrett comes up, for example, to Cloud and puts his fist on and says, this is a heavy burden to bear, be ready to carry it. You look at Cloud's face and it's dark indifference. Tifa, come on. Dark indifference to the real crew who are here. And then the second it switches to Aerith, he brightens, he smiles. It's like this infatuation all of a sudden. And it does point massively towards this being some sort of copium. I do think real Aerith is there. I do think her presence will be there and she'll play a part in part 3. But you have to look at all of this and realize there's something not right there. That he is rejecting anything that says otherwise to the scenario, and that's why Tifa's biting her tongue. She was silent towards the end. Tifa has got this learned pattern through Rebirth for a very good reason, and Remake, that the more truthful she is and the more she tries to make him see the truth, the worse things get. The more their relationship turns sour. Shit, she almost got killed for that stuff. And I can't help but think that, I was saying way before this this remake or Rebirth that Sephiroth knew he made a mistake by not driving the wedge between Tifa and Cloud sufficiently. That was his undoing, and that he would need a whole new game plan coming into Rebirth. Does this not look like that? Is the wedge not fully driven, where now he brightens up at Aerith and darkens at Tifa? And it makes me think, it's a schizophrenic, because that's what schizophrenics do. They actually get resentful, they get angry of anyone who challenges their delusions. And clocked in my mind, I was like, Carl Jung. Damn, I guarantee if I type in Carl Jung, schizophrenia, I'll find something interesting. Are you ready for this, guys? So, he was highly committed to grasping the meaning of psychotic thinking and left behind precious insights, treatment scattered through his works. Jung understood schizophrenia as an, I'm going to try this Latin out, well, I will butcher it, abasement du niveau mental, fucked that right up. A similar phenomenon to the one encountered in dreams and caused by a peculiar fabulise de Levant. Encountered in dreams. Dream space. Dream weaver. Is this a dream? I don't know. You tell me. You could think of it, this is my dream. Dream, dream, dream. Dreams all over the place, man. Really, Pez, dreams, that's such a piss poor idea. Dreams are lame, dude, and then they all woke up. Why do you keep going on about dreams? Similar phenomenon to the ones encountered in dreams. He contested that complexes in schizophrenia, in contrast with other neurotic disorders, are disconnected and can either never reintegrate to the psychic totality, or can only join together in remission, like a mirror broken into splinters. Accordingly, a person who does not fight for the supremacy of ego consciousness and has let themselves be swayed, here we go guys, and has let themselves be swayed by the intrusion of alien contents. Let themselves be swayed by the intrusion of alien contents. Obviously Jung's meaning that in a very, very different context, but putting that in the perspective of AERITH, yes, Cloud has let him be swayed by alien contents, and even to the point of becoming fascinated by the regression. So this is what I was talking about with Bree even before reading this. I said what I feel like this is going to do, because that's where I left off. The suffering is a massive catalyst for Cloud's spiritual development. Also, the memory dive and the bond with Tifa gets Cloud to his spiritual enlightenment moment, where he finds his true self. With Aerith's death being formatted this way for Cloud, not only is he going to have a deeply messed up concept of death, it's going to trivialize death. Well, what is death? She's there. I don't really mind it. It doesn't seem final. It doesn't seem total. No, and you start explaining and layering on multiverse concepts like Sephiroth is. That's how he's presenting it, multiverse. Again, how it actually works, I say more like parallel. But all of that's going to do is just completely fracture how Cloud sees death. And if Sephiroth and Jenova do that enough, then that's going to push him to what I believe is going to sway him towards the forever option. What I mean by that is Aerith has always spoken about, you can't fall in love with me. You can't fall in love with me. You can't become infatuated with me, even to the point of becoming fascinated by the regression. Oh, we're cooking. But she's also been saying about life is final, life is fleeting. She said in Rebirth, nothing is forever. Sephiroth wants to create forever. Aerith is there to respect the finality of things, and Sephiroth is presenting it, no, it doesn't ever have to be final. And what happens if Cloud gets an infatuation with this regression, if it is schizophrenic, Jenova-induced hallucination, he's never going to want to let it go. Why would he ever want to let Aerith and Zack go? The Cloud that we're seeing smiling now is a dark parallel to, when do we see Cloud smiles? When do we hear about Cloud smiles? It's Advent children. That's when he reaches the acceptance of death. That's when all that guilt and shame and burden and non-acceptance of Aerith and Zack's passing, Cloud smiles, and that beautiful melody is when he finally lets it go. This Cloud smiles is not that. And anyone who just is going to play this says, oh no, Cloud's fine. No, it's just because Aerith is alive and it's not. She can be, but you've got to point out that this is Cloud in his worst state, and that is causing, the thing I was saying is like a spiritual bypassing. It's not saying to Brie that some people in religions, and it's a big spiritual trap, they adopt ideas, these belief systems, not because they genuinely are beneficial to the person, but they're coping mechanisms to bypass suffering. Heaven. Oh, where my loved ones are going to be, and I'm going to see them again, and I'm going to be with them again. That can be a genuinely beautiful thing, and you can have that belief system integrated in a healthy way, in a regulated way. There's also a way for you to do that to ignore death, push it out of your mind, spiritual bypassing. And if they create enough of that, which would be such a crazy and logical move for Sephiroth and Jenova to do, to try to get Cloud to spiritually bypass. That could lead, I believe, to him having to make a decision between what Sephiroth would present is you can have everyone. You can have Tifa, you can have Barrett, you can have the whole crew, because death is just a homecoming. You can also have Zack and Aerith. You can have all of them. And will Cloud, who is totally in non-acceptance to death, who has not integrated the deep spiritual lessons that Aerith has tried to instill, talk to the flowers, life is fleeting, it's precious, the beauty of impermanence. Cloud doesn't know that. Why would he ever be able to choose an option that's like what the status quo would be, which was to let Aerith and Zack go forever? And the final part of this post, after the fascinate by regression, is that this exposes the most dangerous aspect of schizophrenia. And just very quickly, another post on it, because Jung believed he had schizophrenia. So the reason why he looked into it, his theories, which were largely based on like archetypes, the collective unconscious, which we've definitely seen some of that, extroverted and introverted personalities. Jung viewed consciousness as intertwined among all of humanity in a collective sense, and he defined archetypes as shared patterns that are central to the context of the human experience, like universal narratives, myths, and religious phenomena. But at 38 years old, Jung himself began hearing voices and having visions. So he believed himself to have schizophrenia, but I think by today's diagnosis, he doesn't qualify, because schizophrenia requires for the person to not have any control over it. They are a victim to it and they cannot help it. Jung was different. He could actually induce or like switch on or off his schizophrenia. So while the modern diagnosis, that interrupts your daily life, didn't apply, in his book, Memories, Dreams and Reflections, he explains that he used active imagination to induce his hallucinations at will. According to Jung, in active imagination, you latch onto a dream or fantasy in your mind, which eventually leads to a psychotic process taking over to animate it. Now, I believe that there's a few possibilities that, Aerith is there in presence, in feeling, and Cloud is feeling into that, and his mind is animating her. I also think it's not that her presence there, it's full schizophrenia, and he's animating the dream because he's Cloud Dreamweaver. Cloud, master of my own illusory world. I keep saying this term because I think it's so freaking cool. But we've got to remember, in Disc 3, Cloud is broken from the rest of his crew, and he actually completely fails as a leader. Sid has to step up. He puts the rest of the crew through a lot of turmoil. And what's that big scene we have where Cloud comes back? Where we have the no getting off this train. It's Cloud coming to the rest of the group and apologizing, admitting that he's been a complete failure as a person, as a teammate, because he allowed himself to get pulled along by his fantasies, his delusions. I was Cloud, master of my own illusory world, following the beats, but with all different, much heavier twisted meaning on it. But between appointments, Jung would enter into these states to better understand the unconscious mind. He explains, in order to grasp the fantasies, I have to go underground. I knew that I had to let myself plummet down into them. Sounds a little bit like a memory dive, doesn't it? The memory dive could be so freaking juicy, man. So freaking juicy. I like what Bree said, which is, he has this empty white material. What happens if Cloud gets his memory back and he fills that material with his memories? What that could do, I'm going to save that for another video because this is already way too long. But Jung believed he had to gain power over his hallucinations so he could better understand them. And the rest of it is about disorganized thinking, negative symptoms, delusions, even aggression or resentment towards anyone who challenges these beliefs, which we're definitely seeing in Cloud. That comfortably explain an interpretation of Nejima's looking into Carl Jung that he said he has been going into. And I will just finish this off on, even though there's a million more points I want to make. One of you left this comment about Hollow. When you put the lyrics of Hollow under the microscope or apply it to Rebirth, how all of a sudden it makes sense. Square Enix, the cheeky buggers, they were talking about this moment between Cloud and Aerith, and this is what's going, because obviously it's from Cloud's perspective, Hollow, right? And this is where he's become most Hollow. This is the puppet part of Cloud's story in OG. Only now is he at his most hollow. So let's go to hollow. Let's go read the person's post. In the beginning, we thought, okay, this is a song from Zach to AERITH. I don't know if we thought that. Did anyone think that? I don't know, I always thought it was from Cloud's PFE. Figured it was him coming back. But no, God no, it's literally Cloud talking to AERITH. By the way, this is Justin Gabriel 1765. Shout out to you, man. Thank you for sharing this with me, dude. And yeah, let me know any juices that you have in the comments, guys, because I will call them out in these videos. They really do help me cook. But yeah, the first verse is essentially saying how she's been one of his rocks. AERITH's been one of Cloud's rocks. How she, along with Tifa, have been there for him as he feels like he's losing his mind. Second verse leads the song to be more AERITH focused, literally calling out her job as the healer, and how he relied on her and was confident in the way she'd always patch him up. And anyway, especially when you're playing that we've just had this dream date. Here we go. Was it all a dream? Will I never know? Foolish and blind to everything. As Cloud is holding AERITH, we see it flash between him crying and then what is really happening. When he says that she won't cry or smile or get angry, but we don't hear them. Then Sephiroth tells him he won't see the truth with such clouded eyes. He's blind to the truth. He's mentally broken. And this is the verse. Had I realized, had I thought it through, would you be here in my embrace? Had I thought it, would you be in my embrace? Simply his thought process as he's holding her dead, right before she conveniently wakes up, right before his very eyes. So he says, AERITH, wake up. She wakes up. Then shine bright once more, guide me to you. Smile bright once more, this time I'll never let you go. So they say Cloud seeing this weird AERITH, and I will say it is a weird AERITH, let's be real. He's pleading, or however you'd like to word it, and she guides him like AERITH has been. Now this time, instead of accepting her death, like he did in OG, this Cloud refuses to. Completely erases memory of it happening and overrides it with a false memory of her being alive in his arms. You get that vibe? There was no lowering in the lake. We did not see it on Tifa and the gang side. You know, we saw Tifa, obviously the gang sat at the lake, and Cloud must have lowered her body in there, but it was erased. And with your every smile hiding something more. With your every smile hiding something more. What's being hidden? What's being hidden? Dark mysteries lurking beneath. But I was consumed with this emptiness, this selfishness, this void to fill. And then once again, hear me, once more, show me your smile. This time for sure, I'll see the truth in tears. But I know that you're long gone, but I will go on howling and hollow. Oh, come on. I think that is a strong point. I've totally lost track of the scores and points, but that goes to Psychosis, both of those things, the Carl Jung, and that to, yeah, Cloud's making this up in their mind. I'm falling in that camp. I think not only do we have a roadmap of evidence for it, I can even pin in my head what this would do for the plot, going deeper into the story. I think the extent to which they take it, you know, is in question. Is it just copium? And you know, AERITH from somewhere higher on a higher plane will be trying to like gently ease him. Like this is a way to gently ease Cloud into the grief of her passing, or is it just there to totally derail and fuck Cloud up? I mean, I'm gonna lean towards that side. That's the side that I kind of want, because this Dark Cloud, I know there's a lot of people who are turned off by it. Like Cloud has gone so significantly down in character poll ratings, especially in Japan. I think he was at #1, now he's at like number 4 or 5 or something. People are like, Cloud's being a dick, Cloud's being a meanie. You know what that tells me? That they're doing a damn good job. Because this is exactly what should be happening with Cloud at this part in the story. We're supposed to be thrown off by him. We're even supposed to be disgusted by his actions. We can always, I was talking, me and Brie were chatting about it, you can go, oh, well, it's an alien parasite in his head, or you can understand why it's happening. It doesn't change that you're supposed to be like disturbed and put off by how Cloud is. And I think this is going to be the next step in that progression. And I'll just say, if Jenova is doing this, and I'll just say, I do want it to be Jenova. I'm so sick of them making everything Sephiroth orientated. For God's sake, give Jenova some spotlight. I think this would be a phenomenally cool way to play Jenova, that she's creating this or influencing this AERITH hallucination. I think that if she plays it well enough and convincingly enough, which maybe she doesn't even have to do anything, just by the nature of Cloud thinking that, oh, you know, yeah, AERITH is over in the temple somewhere, No, and then keeps having divides and these really dark, frosty, like walls of silence and yeah, dark indifference with the rest of his crew. Not only is a wedge being driven there, but Cloud's mind can end up dedicating more and more obsession to this regression, having him fill the void with what? With her. Would it not be essentially what Genova did to win Sephiroth over? And I think there's something thematically tight here, because what does Sephiroth call Genova? What was the, in fact, mother, the absolute all-encompassing infatuation of mother. What did we see in Advent Children? Cloud called Aerith mother. Why does everyone keep calling me mother? Kadaj, no, arguably Sephiroth's darkest side, darkest of the remnants, called Aerith mother. They could do a very similar thing here with Cloud and win over his heart and mind entirely. And then, yeah, all the while that Aerith is becoming more and more real to Cloud, Tifa's becoming less and less real. Not only did Cloud straight up believe she was an illusion, yeah, Tifa at the end, just please make sure you tell me anything. Like what? I know, like if you're starting to think I'm not real, there's no reason these things are happening. I love it. Anyway, guys, I have to leave this video off. Just love it. Love it. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. What one do you lean towards? Honestly, I know I was quite facetious, and I've also given my strong opinion here, but I am just joking. Like the reason why I opened the video making a mockery of "I've got this, I know the answer," is because I dislike that attitude so much. All of this is just my opinion and this my take, and you know what? I'm almost guaranteed by next week, probably not even next week, at the rate that I'm accelerating through this, in the next 24 hours my mind will probably change. But I've got some really juicy theories, and while I'm in the process of recording those, if you guys have any theories and you want me to include them or put some of your cooks into my cooks, or even just present your cooks to the rest of the peasant community, let me know, guys. Until the next video. Go bang!